Hi, I'm Pam Arciero, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it!
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Happy to be here with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Duffenbaugh. With me today, as always, the wonderful co-host we have here, Chris Bixby. How's it going, my friend?
Yeah, thank you for that. Doing good, Jake. Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Doing great as always. Chris, thank you for asking, my friend.
Yes, we had a wonderful interview for you folks. She's worked on a lot of puppet stuff, but I won't give too much away. I'll let Jake kind of introduce that here. Jake, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. Today's guest we have in this episode is Jean Marie Keevins. She's a puppeteer, producer, writer, designer, and lots of other sorts. We'll talk about all of that throughout this chat, including her involvement in theater and Broadway and some series that she got to do throughout her career. You might know her best as the one who's the owner and operates a production company, Little Shadow Productions, and so much more. So let's not waste any more time, folks. Enjoy our chat with Jean Marie. See you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Today we have with us is the great Jean Marie Keevins. Welcome, Jean Marie.
Hi,
Glad you're
thank you
here.
so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you both.
Yeah, excited to have you here.
Yes, likewise. Likewise, delighted to have you here. So thank you very much again for doing this. So to kick things off, we know who you are, but those who don't, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Jean Marie Keevins, and I'm a puppet artist. So I create new content in puppetry. I build puppets. I have a company called Little Shadow Productions, and we have an academy where we teach skills to puppet artists. So that it could be creative skills or business skills. We also have a group coaching program for puppet artists. I work as a professional coach when I'm not working in puppetry. I'm also the artistic producer of the National Puppetry Conference at the O'Neill. And back to Little Shadow, we also have a production branch where we do TV, film, stage, all sorts of shows. What else do we do? And we consult. So we help people who have puppet companies who are trying to figure out how to grow it and what that could look like, help them figure out the roadmap to get there.
Wonderful.
Nice. So, what was your childhood like before working in puppetry?
Wow. My childhood. So I grew up on Long Island in New York, and I had a traditional Long Island childhood where we were very middle class, and um we were latchkey kids. I don't know if they call kids like that anymore, but our parents were both at work. So my brother and I, came home and took care of whatever we had to do ourselves. And a lot of my friends, I was very lucky that a lot of my friends lived on my block growing up. So
Hmm.
we had like the real suburban life in that way, but I didn't grow up in a very wealthy area. So our imaginations were required to run wild, and they did. And I'm very lucky that I grew up in a household, and I'm a grown adult, but I can still say that this is true, where all of the adults in my family, my elders, still encourage play. So I grew up in a very playful place. So even though
Nice.
it was serious and we didn't have everything and life was not simple, we always got to play. And so I'm very lucky for that.
That's awesome.
That's great to hear. So now, do you always want to work in puppetry, or there isn't anything else that you want to pursue?
Yeah, no, I did not even know that puppetry was a thing. I mean, I watched the Muppets and I watched Sesame Street growing up, and
Of
I loved
course.
Sherry Lewis. Um,
Oh yeah, Malu Lewis. She's so great, and we have her on like a while back and talk about stuff. But she's doing a great job taking over Lamb Chop and other characters that Sherry's done. She's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Mallory's lovely. Yeah, I was really a big fan of her mother's work, but I didn't know at the time really that that's what I was a fan of. I loved Fraggle Rock and all of that, but
Oh
my
yeah.
my big thing to get away to was I Love Lucy.
Oh
That
wow.
that was more
Ah,
my.
okay.
I
That's
really didn't.
cool.
If you had asked anyone in my family, nobody would have said puppetry. Now, when we look back, it makes a whole lot of sense. But yeah, no, I never thought about it. I thought I would go into fashion design. For a while, I thought that I would be a photographer, or like a photojournalist. I've always wanted to travel the world. I always wanted to help people. Like all of the things that I do now have always been a part of what interested me, storytelling and things like that. But no, I never thought I'd be a puppeteer, not in a million years. And I'm always surprised. I'm like so impressed by people who say that they've known since they were like 3. Like, how? How is that?
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. It's an
of
interesting
course.
answer because I mean, us growing up with a lot of these shows, we definitely grew up with them, but we never really thought
Yeah.
about, this is something you could do at such a, young
As a
age. We never
living,
really thought
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Right. Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm kind of curious. So where did you got to, trained and what and how did you got your first puppet jobs?
Yeah. So I trained at the University of Connecticut. Um, somebody literally suggested to me, have you considered puppetry? That's how I found UConn. That was not someplace I was going to land on my own. And I looked into the program and it looked amazing. And they basically said there's no room at the end, but you're welcome to try. And I applied and I got in, which was wild because I only took 2 people that year. So yeah, that
Huh.
I went for 2 years. I had gone to another school first, Nassau Community College, which I went to because they had a huge arts program. And at that time, it was the #1 community college in the country. So most of your teachers or professors were there from Ivy League schools. And my goal, which was a big audacious goal that I like how I came up with this, but I wanted to go to an Ivy League school and I thought that they should pay for it. And I'm not a good test taker. So why I thought that that was going to happen, I don't know. But I went to Nassau because they had a really great arts program. And someone there and it cost pennies. So I was like, this is great. I can get 2 years of college done, be with my family. I had some illness in my family, and then I'll figure it out. And I was going to go to an Ivy. No, I wasn't. But then I applied to UConn and got in. And the irony of that to me is that I believe that UConn is the Ivy of puppet schools. It is the place to go, and I feel so grateful for that experience. It's very different than the program is now, but um, when you went there at the time, they had 100% job placement because there were so few people
Gotcha.
who graduated.
Wow.
So why wouldn't you go to a school where there was 100% job placement? So my first internship was with Stephen Witterman at the Puppet Company doing marionettes, which I knew nothing about. And I knew I wouldn't take at UConn, so that was the way to learn marionettes. And then my first job was on Between the Lions.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
nice.
And
I love that show.
yeah, and I wasn't there long. I had, like I said,
Right.
an illness in my family, and that job, it was too much to work a TV schedule and deal with personal life. But I was there for about a month or two, and during that time, I met all of the people who are like my buds now, my collaborators. Like I didn't know that that would happen. And also during that time, I applied to the O'Neill,
Ah,
and
gotcha.
so I
Wow.
trained at the O'Neill for 2 summers. I had Steven, and then in Between the Lions. I think those were like my biggest outside of UConn, my biggest training grounds early on. Later on in my career, I also went to puppets in Prague, and I found a lot of places to train along the way. A few years ago, I went to Bali and I trained with a Dalong through Unima,
Wow.
and that was amazing. So yeah, my training's very broad.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well,
Right.
actually, speaking of University in Connecticut Between the Lions, and the past we interviewed Jen Barnhart and Tim Legacy, and they kind of talk about, studying there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, such great guys.
Yeah.
When I was at UConn, I was big into I have a learning challenge. And so I would use index cards to study. And puppeteers don't really study, and that's not their thing. And so, but I needed to get certain grades to be able to stay in school. And so I would have these index cards. And one of the index cards said Tim Lagasse. And we had to know all these puppeteers. And when you turned it over, it said centrifuge for puppetry. And a centrifuge is something that everything spins off of. And my
Huh.
first job out of college was Between the Lions, and Tim Lagasse was there. And I was terrified. I was terrified. Kathy Mullen, Michael Frith, Tim Lagasse, Anthony Asbury,
Yeah, Peer Lens and
Jen was on. Yeah, all these people. And I had met Jen once or twice, but she's, like a lot of presence, and she's a powerhouse. And I was just terrified. I was terrified. And Tim Lagasse was in a room with Kathy Mullen and Heather Ash. Actually, they were in a closet.
right, Heather. Yeah, right.
They would shoot those little
Huh.
interstitials, those little moments where you'd see tiny little puppets. Those were all
Yeah,
shot, they
Yeah.
yeah.
were shot in a closet. And they
Interesting.
they went in the closet to shoot this thing, and the door opens and you hear there's art going on in there. And Tim Lagasse came out, and I was like, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "You're the centrifuge for puppetry." And he was like, "What?" And he kept going because he had a job to do. And like months later, I told him, I studied you and Jim Napolitano, who was also in that room. I said, you were index cards in I was studying you. I was supposed to,
Wow.
and I was told by Bart Roccoburton, when you graduate, you go find these people. And I wasn't going to do that. I was shy, but they found me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
That's wonderful.
That's nice. So now for a number of years you worked at a Puppet Heap. How did you kind of first begin working for them?
Yeah. So before I worked at Puppet Heap, I was in fashion for a while. I did a lot of things. I worked in a nursing home. I worked all over the place. And then I worked in fashion. And during that time, I got a call from Rick Lyon, who was building Avenue Q.
Rick, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I had done a project for Comedy Central with Rick when I was in college. Stephen Witterman had brought me along on this project, so I would meet people. And it was a marionette project. And so Rick called me and said, "Hey, are you interested in coming to build these puppets?" And I said, yes. And I quit my job in fashion and I went out to New Jersey and built puppets with all of these people that I was completely intimidated by. My desk was in the middle of the room and I would sit quietly building. And as it was coming to the end, everyone was talking about their next jobs. And for me, I just thought I'd go back to fashion. And Melissa Creighton from
And
Henson,
Melissa, yeah, she's great. Yeah.
yeah, she's awesome. She said to me, "Do you know Paul Andreyko at Puppet Heap?" And I said, "I met him years ago, but he won't know me." It was like a chance encounter kind of thing. And she said, "Reach out to him and apply." And everyone in the room was like, so I didn't know that all the people, or I would say 70% of the people building Avenue Q were going to Puppet Heap next. So when I went to interview at Puppet Heap, they were all in the room like, hire her, hire her. And
Oh,
they hired me to answer the phones. I was
Oh,
not
wow.
hired to
wow.
build puppets or anything like that. And
Interesting.
while I was there,
Wow.
because I have a very broad spectrum of skills. And while I was there, somebody was having a hard time getting a color. They were dyeing fur and they couldn't nail this color. And I said, um, I have a certificate in fabric dyeing. And they were like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm a really great fabric dyer. Can I try? And they said, no one can get this color. And I tried. I came in early one day and I got it. And
Oh, wow.
so then I started dyeing fur and building. And then very quickly I was in like a more of a support role. I don't even remember what it was called, honestly, but eventually I became a project manager and then I was the marketing director. And by the time I left, I was the vice president of business development. And
Wow.
and I was traveling all over the world, introducing people to the wonders of puppetry and trying to get them to sign deals with Puppet Heap. Yeah, it was a very bizarre thing that came out of Melissa saying, I think they need your skills.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paul Andreyko, he's wonderful. He's also a previous guest.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's great. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we worked together for 10 years. So, we had a
Right.
very close relationship for a long time.
That's
It's
great.
awesome. So through Puppet Heap, you got you got to help build puppets for the Muppets.
Mhm.
What was that like? Because you worked with them on a couple projects.
I did, yeah. Many and many that you saw and many that you never saw. Um,
Right.
yeah, so that was wild. Wait, what was your question about the Muppets? Sorry.
It was just like what was it like getting to build puppets for them? Because you worked on like the Jason Segel movie and Muppets Most
Yeah.
Wanted and things like
Yeah, and
that.
Layers to Santa, and
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of projects. Well, when it first started, it was that they wanted to like overhaul the inventory. So it all began with 350 boxes showing up in my office. I think the first batch was 100 boxes, literally
wow.
in my office.
Wow.
And it said like sheep and fish and random things. And then you'd open the box and it would say sheep and in it would be a horse. And so we went through and we did the entire inventory and we really like assessed the puppets. And then from that, we decided what needs to be rebuilt, what doesn't, and why. And then we would have to pitch Muppets on what we thought needed to happen just to help the franchise grow. And then once we knew what was there, like you could say put the cauliflower in, but then you'd open a box and it was toast, like the little
Yeah.
foam.
Yeah.
So there's no cauliflower. Please don't write that in. So when we looked all over and we would see that the puppets were not completely consistent over the years. The characters had changed. And so we basically looked at all the characters and helped them design the current look, right? Like what will they be now?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's happened again since then. I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I wouldn't say that I
I don't know.
followed.
I feel like a lot of the Muppets now have kind of kept the same design since the Jason Segel movie. I mean, there might have been a couple
Yeah.
of changes, but I think they've kind of kept a similar design.
Then we
Right.
did our
Right.
jobs, and I can feel really good about that. Um, some things I helped build, many things I helped manage, other things I was a milliner for years. Do you know what that is?
Hmm.
It's like somebody who makes couture hats.
Okay.
So
Right.
I have a lot of work with like tiny feathers or little stitches or like working with unique materials. So
Okay.
things like Sam Eagle's collar, his feathers were all flat and
Okay.
we wanted them to come up.
Ah.
And I know how to make that happen and stay that way because of those techniques. So those are the times that I would come in and build, unless it was just stitching, in which case I was saying to somebody recently, I wish that there were photographs of how many times we were in meetings where we were stitching the entire time that we were talking about budgets and where people are going and why and planning out things, we would be stitching the whole time. So, or cutting out fabric. And um, so, yeah, it was a wild ride that time. And I feel like by the time I left, the company was much more settled. When I got there, it was in a massive growth phase. Like we just mushroomed two or three times and we moved twice. Like it was a wild ride. And I'm so happy when I see that they're doing well and that
Yeah.
relationship with the Muppets is still there and
Oh yeah, for sure.
it's
Yeah,
nice to see.
absolutely.
Of course. Absolutely. So now, since you kind of actually will touch base a little tiny bit with Avenue Q earlier, what was it like, getting to build puppets for that and for Disney on Ice?
Disney on Ice was probably one of my first jobs. I have no idea how I got it. I don't remember at all anymore. And that was Mary Bremer, who is a Muppet builder.
Right. I've
Who
heard the
goes,
name, yeah.
yeah, she goes between shops. And Mary had her own studio, and it was in Brooklyn. And I just made jellyfish. I think during the day I was still working in fashion, and at night that they worked two shifts there to get this build done. And so I would go in and hand stitch, or I learned how to use the industrial machine there. And Henry Owaskio, who's been with me in almost every journey along the way, Henry taught me how to use the industrial. And she was also a milliner, so she understood my sensibilities. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I don't remember how I got that job, to be honest with you. I just remember doing it, and
Right.
I met a lot of people there. And then I'm
Mhm.
sure that that's how my name got put back in Rick's head to call me. But
Ah,
I could have
Okay.
seen him at something. It's amazing how it feels like a different life.
Yeah. I mean that's like a bit while ago, so no worries at all. You don't remember
Yeah.
like specifically, of course, but
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was
that
wonderful.
happens.
I just feel like I met the people who would be core figures in my career for like the next 10 years on Avenue Q and Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Avenue Q is such a great musical, wonderful people who got to be involved, like, or I mentioned a little bit of Rick Lyon earlier. John Tartaglia, he's so great.
Stephanie.
Jen, Stephanie, yeah. And oh gosh,
Yeah.
there's so many wonderful people that got to be involved in that.
Agreed.
Exactly. And speaking of John Tartaglia, you also got to build puppets for Johnny and the Sprites. Well, what was that like?
Yeah, I forgot. I don't remember if I built puppets. I could have. I'm the first to admit there are things I don't remember, but I do know that I made hats and things like that for them. I remember doing props. Michael Schupak called me and
Oh,
said,
Michael, yeah,
"This is what
it's
we
great too.
need." He and I lived down the block from each other.
Ah,
So it
Wow.
was an easy and they were they shooting at Kaufman? I think they were shooting nearby.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Uh-huh.
was an easy exchange. So he called me and said, "Can you make these things?" And I would make them and then he would pick them up like in the middle of the
Yeah.
night. And then at some point I was there on set and they were all my friends. I didn't even know who was on the show until I got there and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Um,
Johnny and Leslie and Carmen and Heather and Tim,
Tim. Yeah.
yeah, if I did build puppets for that, and I really don't remember, if I did, I probably was
good.
stitching, and that's why I don't remember.
Ah, gotcha.
Gotcha. No worries at all. And I've heard that you actually got to like build puppets even for Terry Fader and Wyatt
Yeah.
Sinek
Yeah.
and even for Baby Einstein, which I remember watching those videos a lot growing up.
Yeah. Baby Einstein, when I got to Puppet Heap, I don't remember if they had done a group. I think we were trying to figure out that job when I got there. So
Okay.
yeah, I helped with that. That's the one that I dyed all the fur for, because they had like
Uh,
really bright, vibrant colors. And in that job, I think that's when I started to move into like they realized I would be good with clients. So I started doing client
gotcha.
relations then too. So I was building and dyeing fur and doing client relations. And then Terry Fader, Terry Fader was somebody that someone else, I don't remember who, called me and said, "Hey, there's this puppet guy on America's Got Talent." And I was like, "Really?" And then I looked and I was like, "Oh, a ventriloquist." Not the same, but okay.
Right.
And we're all in the same family. So I said, okay. And I went to work and I said, I think we should find this guy. And everyone was like, how are we going to find this guy? I'm like, I'm going to find him. So I just started calling anybody I could. Um,
Wow.
and then there was a note. Anybody who was there at that time will tell you this was 100% true. And everybody thinks that this is not a true story. We had two phones at Puppet Heap, and next to both phones, there was a post-it. Terry Fader, find Jean Marie.
Oh, wow.
Because if somebody,
Wow.
because no one would know who he was yet. He was literally like 4 weeks in. And when I
Yeah.
was like finding him, and we got a call from Terry Fader's group, and I was in on the bandsaw. So I'm in there with my, headset on, my goggles on, and I'm doing whatever I'm doing. The bandsaw is blowing and the fan is blowing, and there's someone in the doorway with the phone. And I'm like, I'm gonna finish this. So I finished what I was doing because I didn't want to mess up my cut or my fingers. I finished what I was doing. I don't know what I was cutting. I just remember that I was on a bandsaw. And I turned it off and I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Terry Fader's on the phone." And I said, "Okay." And I put my headset on and I turned on because I thought they were pranking me.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, "No, no." So I picked up, and whoever it was, I think it might have been his brother or somebody, that I picked up
Wow.
the phone and said, "Hi, they said, I hear you've been looking for us." And I said, "I think you need us. And let's have a conversation." And we did.
That's
And
great.
they came to New York. We went to
That's
LA. We
crazy.
worked together
Wow.
for years. Yeah, I really liked Terry.
Oh
And
yeah,
Terry,
of
it's
course.
interesting because he came to the National Festival. And, that was really special.
Right.
It was really special. But I think it's interesting how times have changed, since
Yeah.
we worked together. And
Oh yeah.
You know, there's no matter what you think, there's no debating his talent.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He can do a lot of like impressions, even just
And
some trying to do some celebrity impression.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
and he's a hard worker.
as his like puppet of trying to do their voice or something. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's so talented.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
he's a
great.
very, very hard worker.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
so we part of what we were doing was saying, what do your writers want to write? And then trying to build towards the writers, which was really fun. That's how the crash test dummy, I think his name was Rex, maybe, um, was created. Was like, what else? What have you been imagining that you couldn't find? And they told
Hmm.
us, and we helped them do it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
that's great.
You asked me another question though about a job. Oh, Wyatt.
Wyatt. Yeah.
Wyatt. I met Wyatt. That was another like, we got to figure out how to do this job. We had done one job for the Daily Show where we made a
Right.
John McCain puppet. And that puppet had to be made so fast that Henry and I were sewing. We both had our hands on the puppet and we were in a car driving to the set, finishing the puppet. And
Gosh.
they took it for their rehearsal, and then we made them take it back so we could make sure we pulled all the pins out. We finished it, or Henry finished it. At that point, it was a one-person job. And it went on, and I went and talked to their producer team and said, we'd love to do more puppets. Please let us be your people. And they called us about a year or two later, and they said, we have this idea. This is how much we can pay. And I'm telling this story because it is really important for puppeteers who are afraid to do jobs where you don't get paid a lot. We agreed to do the job very quickly for not a lot of money in exchange for having our name in the credits in a very high place. So
Huh.
we
Wow.
had three puppets in the show, and the credits rolled, and it was like 1 second, 2 seconds, there goes Puppet Heap. And no one was around us. And so that made sure that people who saw this would know right away who did it. So that was our marketing budget, right?
Interesting.
Went into doing that. But we built the puppets. Um, I'm only saying that to the people who say, how are we supposed to make it work? There's always a way. Find the way. Um, we built these puppets and we were stitching them while we were there. And Wyatt walked in and I had his head in my lap and I'm stitching his head. And he came in and was like, John Oliver was there. And I said, is this weird?
Yeah.
And they both burst out laughing. And I just kept going because we were rushing. And I said, but I heard you really like puppets. And Wyatt was like, uh-huh. And I said, once we get through this, please, can we stay and talk? And he said, yeah. And then we did. We found out we're neighbors. And
What?
yeah, we're neighbors. And
What? That's cool.
we just had a conversation and about we had a conversation outside of our jobs. And this is who I am. Like any puppeteer who spends time with me will tell you this, like, who are you as a puppeteer and how can I help you get where you want to be? And as a creative, right? That's how I
Yeah,
ended up coaching. Like how can we help people get there? And so
exactly.
Wyatt, I said to him, if there was one thing you could do with puppets, what would it be? And he said, I don't know, a movie. I have some ideas for TV shows. I have some ideas. And I said, okay, keep us in mind. And then years passed. I left Puppet Heap. He left The Daily Show. And he had heard from someone, I don't know who, that I had left Puppet Heap. And he contacted me directly. And he said, I want to work with you. We both knew that the other one was going to leave. And it ended up not, we both had exit plans, but our exit plans weren't, I ended up getting hurt and I had to leave. He left the show for other reasons. He had planned on leaving, a year later. So we had plans to work with each other, but they got expedited because he got a Netflix special. And
Right.
when that Netflix special came up, there's a lot of people who work with Wyatt now, which I think is great, but I will do anything he wants ever. He's just a
Hmm.
really nice, smart guy, and he sent me so many scripts over the years. He's so creative and so aware of how hard puppetry is, what a skill
Yeah.
and art form it is, and why it's important in telling deep stories, political stories, or, whatever they are. He understands where the power of the puppet is. And so I have a huge, huge soft spot for Wyatt because he knows how to use puppets well. And when he called us, he had no budget. I was like, Wyatt. So I called James Godwin, and he and I,
James, yeah, he's great too.
yeah,
A lot of
James and
wonderful
I worked
names.
very closely for years. I've produced him many times. And
Wow.
and I said, James, Wyatt wants to do this thing, and he'll do anything for Wyatt too. We both we really admire.
Right.
And so we decided, how do we do this cheaply? Toy theater.
Hmm.
So we built the whole thing in 2 or 3 days in James's basement on foam core
Nice.
and made the movie happen. And it was such a delight.
That's awesome.
Such a delight. I would love to work with him again, just because he's so collaborative and so creative, and he sticks to his guns. Like, they don't want me to say this, but I'm gonna find a way.
Right. Yeah.
I love that about him.
That's
Nice.
great.
Yeah.
So now, what's it like getting into getting into a puppet wrangling for a PBS series? It's a big world. Like,
Oh wow. You guys are taking me, you're not kidding, nostalgia show. Big, big world. Big, big world. I was working in a nursing home at the time in Rhode Island, and I got a call from Z Briggs, who went on to
okay,
be the foundation manager at the Jim Henson Foundation for many years, I think
right,
15 years, and it's on Sesame Street and many other things. And she was wrangling the show, and she needed coverage. And so she said, would you do this? And yeah. So I went in and wrangled for 2 days. And, I was offered something on the show, but I was very happy with what I was doing in my life. I just liked helping people. And so I went back to what I was doing. But from that, they then brought me on to do photo styling for them.
Hmm.
And
ah,
I loved it. So that was my first experience in that stuff. So Big Big World brought me into the um to the blue screen sphere. I hadn't had experience with
right.
that. And then it brought me into photo styling. And from there I'll still photo style. I love that job. I will photo style or wrangle. I'll wrangle most jobs if I really want to, but photo styling I'll do any day of the week. And that
That's
that came
great.
out of Big Big World.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. Another one. Yeah, another great show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
basically, like with the photo style, are you talking about like we had to do like just the pictures for them for a promotion or something? Is that what that meant?
Yes. So
Okay.
John Barrett, who is the very famous Muppet photographer, all those Muppet calendars and posters.
I've seen his work. He's
Right.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so John Barrett was the photographer, and his head photo stylist, Danielle Obinger, who we ended up hiring at Puppet Heap years later, um, to run the shop. Danielle, or to maintain the inventory, I guess was her job, but um, Danielle was the lead photo stylist, and they kicked my butt. They
Hmm.
kicked my butt on that photo shoot. It was all white, and there was a walk around puppet, Snook, I think was his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Snooky
Yeah.
Yugoslav, which Pierre got to do that
And I
character,
think
which did
Peter
just
came
such a
in and did part of the
great job.
shoot.
Yeah, where Pierre got to do that character. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
amazing. He was
Yeah.
amazing. And that's where Peter and I got to know each other well, was doing that, because then he came in to do the photo shoot, I think, for one day, but it was a 2 day shoot.
Right. Just to kind of like kind of pretend that like Snook is actually in the photo with all the other characters or something, because it's all blue screen, so you kind of have to just
Well,
make sure it was.
for photo shoots, we often shoot on white. And so the puppeteers come in, and then we have sometimes, and then the puppets are armatured, right? They're wired in positions.
Yeah.
And then,
Kind of like how the Book of Pooh, technically, since that's another show that had that style too.
yes, but it's almost like they're in freeze frame. And then
Yeah.
if it's like this,
Right.
but they want the hand in the fist, they'll say Jean Marie, left hand fist. And then I go in and move the hand, right? Or
Yeah.
they say we
Yeah.
need the puppet looking this way. And literally your job is to do this. until they say, no, too far, right? You move the puppet's head. But I love those jobs because they'll say, give me this. And like you figure out how to make the puppet look like that. So I
That's
ended up
fun.
doing a
Wow.
lot of that with Miss
Wow.
Piggy and the Muppets with Danielle years later.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
And John.
Nice.
And John.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that you actually got to be a puppet supervisor for Helpsters too, which
Hmm?
that's another that which that's actually another
I
Another
love that.
great show, yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
pretty
Helpsters
that.
is fun.
recent series. Like when did that came out? Must like around there.
Right
Oh,
before.
it was shortly before the pandemic, I think.
That's right.
Because then
That's
they
right.
did the Helpsters Help You thing. I remember we talked to Stephanie a lot about that.
Helpsters help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. I came onto that show by accident. I At that time I was doing a whole different job in a whole different world. And Mark Petrosino or Mike Latini, one of them called me, the Monkey Boys called me. And
Oh
I
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
started out
yeah,
with the Monkey
they're
Boys.
great too.
Yes, there used to be a group called the Cat's Paw Collective. And it was Jen Barnhart, Heather Ash, Deb Hertzberg, the Monkey Boys, um, Shupak. There was a whole bunch of us in there, and we would
Wow.
create original theater around New York City.
Hmm.
And every so often it would tour, but mostly it was around New York City. And um, so I knew them from the Wayback Machine. And one of them called me and said, "We have an opportunity to bid on this job. Can you help us?" Like that's the kind of consulting I do with people. And I said yes. And
Yeah.
they got the puppet build. And then they needed people to be on set. And it just wasn't working to bring the Monkey Boys up to set for the amount of money that they wanted to spend at the time. And it just wasn't like jiving. And finally I said to them, listen, this isn't working. They're not going to be able to give you what you need. You're not able to give them what they need right now. Um, and they approached me about going on to the show. Would you be okay with that? And they were like, go, which was really gracious of them. And so I went on to that show as a puppet supervisor and brought on Andrea Detweiler and Jimmy Helvin, who is an incredible costume designer, um, who doesn't get a lot of calls in puppetry and should. So I brought Jimmy in, and now I know he's working in puppetry. And Said One Hooks we brought in, and Jane Pien, and it was just a really great team. Carrie and James, and it was a really diverse team of really interesting voices. So when you put them together, Helpsters is quirky and weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And we needed a
Right.
team that is quirky and weird.
Right.
And so I brought in people who don't
Exactly.
usually work together and said best ideas on the table. And it was awesome. And I will say the producers and the creators of that show, they are best ideas on the table kind of people.
Oh yeah.
So it was a wonderful
Yeah,
experience.
Tim
Tim
McKeown,
Tim
yeah.
Jimmy McEwen.
McCon.
Yeah.
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 And Ben Lehman was the executive producer, I think, and Kay Stallings. All those people were like best idea. And so it was a really wonderful experience. But I'm not somebody. I'm good to bring into your franchise if it's stuck, but I'm a starter. I get bored. And so I knew that I was building my own company and doing my own thing during COVID. I was one of the only people still on the show throughout COVID. And so we were going through the inventory and setting things up to move into the next season. And so when they moved to the new studio, I was leaving the show. And then I helped them bring on Puppet Heap because they wanted somebody who was right there. Which I will say was great, but I do want to just say this for the Monkey Boys. The Monkey Boys come into the city all the time, so they should not be considered far away from New York. They can be wherever you need them to be. They are amazing. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
That's great.
that experience was heaven, and the reason why is they let puppets be puppets. It was so fun.
That's great.
That's
It was
wonderful.
so fun.
That's great. So now this is kind of an interesting question, but was there like a puppet job that you did that would you'd consider like the most challenging, like in general?
Um, I'm like, that I want to talk about. Well, Helpsters was super
Yeah.
challenging because it was new. And, if you think
Right.
about Sesame Workshop, their experience with puppets, the current people, they inherited this huge collection and a way of working. So,
Yeah.
so it was something new. So that was an interesting challenge. Um, and the writing was really dynamic in a way that like you really had to figure out stunts and tricks. Um, and we had Tim Lagasse and Marty Robinson and Stephanie DeBruzzo and Jen and Ingrid.
Kathleen
Like,
Kim?
what?
Kathleen Kim, yeah. Kathleen Kim was there,
Kathleen
yeah.
Kim, yes,
Ingrid, yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
yes, Ingrid. It was just I just left somebody out. Jim Krupa. It's like a group
Right.
of mad scientists. So they would hand us a script that was insane, and then we would all put ideas out on how to get it done, and then we would pick the simplest idea and make it work. And it was just that was a very, very demanding job because we moved fast. And that show is shot mostly on the road. So every day you're packing up a tractor trailer full of puppets. And then they come back to the shop. You go through them all. They go back on the tractor trailer and go to the next place. That was a very demanding job.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there are other like previous guests we got to chat that was also involved in that series. Ben Lehman and Adam Peltzman.
Yes,
They're,
they're all great. It was
oh yeah,
demanding, but there was
yeah,
nobody who didn't want to be there.
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's a fun,
They
very
just
fun
want,
show.
yeah, they just want just some, let's do this.
Yes,
That type of
let's
a
do
vibe.
something great and let's try to have fun. And when we can't have fun, like deliver,
Yeah, even
make
you mess
something
up
that
a
doesn't
take or
exist.
something, just it's just a little warm up. Just happens.
Yeah,
Just do, you know, that type
yeah.
of thing.
Oh,
It's
I
great.
love that you enjoyed it. That means a lot.
Yeah, it was a very fun show, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So now since you kind of already talked a little bit with you got to be an associate artistic director for the O'Neill. What was that like getting to work for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So my current job is as an artistic producer. And I came up,
Hmm.
I was hired as an assistant. I had been a participant twice. I never talked to anybody because I was super, super shy. And um Pam Arciero's assistant. He had a better title than that, but whatever it was, um, he couldn't go just a few weeks before, and she called me. He said to her, "Call Jean Marie, she'll understand my spreadsheets." And to this day, I have no idea why he said that, but he was right. I did. And Pam called me and said, do you want to do this? And I had all these terms, and she laughs because I'm still like that with her, but whatever. Um, And yeah, and I went and I did some job. I made it up. I had no idea what I was doing. Um and it's grown into this incredible. I mean, it was incredible then, but now it's like an incredible beast. At the time, it was like one or two artists a year. Now it's huge.
Well,
And
that's awesome.
it's great.
Pam,
Yeah, it's a
Pam's
hard
so
job.
great.
I
Yeah.
had two meetings with her today.
Oh wow.
Pam
Interesting.
always says I'm
Really?
the other half of her brain.
Oh wow. Wow.
Or Pam, if somebody asks a question, she'll say, I don't know. And she just looks at me. Do you know?
Oh, that's funny.
I'll definitely let her know that we just chat with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So now moving on to a Little Shadow Productions, what kind of gave you the idea to want to start that?
I knew at Puppet Heap that I was going to start Little Shadow. Um, I've always wanted to create more of my own content, and I love what I do at the O'Neill, but I wanted to democratize access to information. People live all over the world and don't get to meet Marty Robinson, and
Yeah.
I see him all the time. Like I have a lot
I
of,
love Mari,
he's awesome. He loves you too. But,
of course.
I have a lot of access to a lot of wonderful, wonderful artists, many of which people never meet, who are not names at home, but who are really what's making the engine run. And I kind of wanted to make space for them, and I wanted to be able to create my own shows. So um, I started making my own shows. And when I heard I when I left Puppet Heap, I left because I broke my kneecap. And
Oh,
yeah, that hurts. And it took a long time to get better. I had to learn to walk twice. And during that time, you have a lot of downtime. So I collaborated with Deb Hertzberg on a play. I collaborated with Liz Horror on a film. We just started writing. I was writing all the time and draw. I drew a little bit, but not that much. I think the drawing made me sad because I wanted to build, and
uh,
so I just really kept to writing. And yeah, I wrote like 4 plays during that time, and we produced two, and we produced a film. And so Little Shadow was born because we needed a company to raise money for the projects. And
right.
now it's turned
Yeah, are
into
you
this
talking about the are you talking about the Adventures of
liverwurst girl.
Liverwurst Girl?
Yeah,
Is that what that
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Yeah.
Our weird little lady. We love her. Um, we've been talking about doing a coloring book for her. I think we will. I don't know when, but we will. Uh, yeah. So this year is the 10th anniversary of Little Shadow. Spoiler
Oh
alert.
Oh,
wow.
cool.
And we never celebrated.
Well, congratulations then,
Thank you.
Jean Marie. Well, you're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Thanks. Somebody told me the company's older than that. And I said, well, legally, it's 10 years old. I know when we registered it with the government. I'm sure it existed before that, but I don't remember. Um, so we're celebrating the 10th anniversary. We keep joking that we'll figure out when it really started, and then in 2 more years, we'll have the 15th. But we're having our 10-year anniversary, and we're counting the play Zwerg, which is a story about 7 little people who survived the Holocaust. It was a play that I created with Deb Hertzberg, and then Spencer Locke came on.
Oh,
Um,
Spencer, yeah.
yeah, Spencer and I have collaborated a lot over the years, and so we created that play, and so I think Little Shadow was really born around that. And then is that right? No, it was born around Liverwurst Girl, and then it really started to take off around Sverig. And Liverwurst Girl is the story of an 8-year-old girl who's trying to stop bullies, one smelly liverwurst sandwich at a time. And she uses them as her weapon. And Liz Hara wrote the script for that. And originally it was a play. I wrote the play. And then when we brought it to
Oh,
film,
okay.
Marty directed it. Liz wrote it. And we had, at the time, Puppet Heap wasn't really working
Yeah.
much. So we had a will work for food. And anybody who wanted to come in, I would cater the meals, and people would come in, and we built puppets. And Jane Henson gave us the carriage house.
Hmm.
And I think we did that entire film on like $3,000 or something crazy like that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But nobody was working. So we were like, we got to do something to keep our spirits up. And it was a fun, stupid in that it was like silly project, but it was a meaningful project because it was an anti-bullying project. So yeah, that was fantastic. And we had some of the best puppet builders in the world come and work on that because they were bored, which was amazing.
That's great.
Mhm.
That's great. And and looking forward what's more to come with that, company, especially, with all the things that's been happening, not just the academy, but also, upcoming TV, puppetry class sessions, which I actually got to did a couple of them, which that was so great.
Oh, good.
Uh,
I love
have a
that.
lot of blast doing that, and
Yeah.
looking
Right.
forward for more of that.
Thank you. Yeah, right now we're really focused on um, theater productions.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And, I'm sure we'll go back to film, and I'm sure that we'll, um, develop some new stuff. But right now we're really focused in the theater, and I'm really happy there. I'm starting to direct um, and do group coaching, which I love. I love helping puppet artists.
Nice.
And the O'Neill's coming, so I'm very busy with that.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Little Shadow, you got to produce All Hallows Eve and Aanika's Elephants. What
Yeah.
were those like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before those, I produced a couple shows for James Godwin, Lunatic Cunning and Flatiron Hex, and then All Hallows Eve. Um, that we did during Marty had written it years before and workshopped it at the O'Neill. And at the time, I think I was whatever title you said earlier. Um, I was something else. Um, and so I was there in the room, kind of helping artists move along. And that play definitely had legs, and we knew it. And so Marty said, can we mount it? And I said, okay, well, let's figure it out. And I wrote a budget, and we were like, oh, yeah, no. How are we going to do this? And we asked the O'Neill if we could come back. And we did a workshop outside of the puppetry conference when the campus was closed. And Jen Barnhart came and starred in it. It was a slightly different cast, but Sam Gold was what ended up being Spencer Lott's role. Um, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and really important to have that developmental time. We had a week where morning, noon, and night we worked on the show. And by the
Hmm.
time we left, we really knew what the show was. And we invited producers to come see it, and it didn't get picked up. And we were like, "Ugh, what are we going to do?" And then when Helpsters happened, Marty came to me and said, all of our friends are here. Can we do the show? And
Oh,
we worked a TV show during the day, and during lunch days where we didn't have meetings, because we often have production meetings at lunch. When we didn't have meetings, we had production meetings for All Hallows Eve. So we were all, and then Marty and I would stay late at night and talk through what we were going to do. And he had different meetings on the side with other people, because I had to be on all the time, but they get breaks. So, um, yeah, during that show, which was crazy. Can you imagine doing a brand new TV show and then launching an off-Broadway play at night?
That's
Nobody,
crazy.
yeah, I
nobody,
know. Like, what?
it was
Must be
insane.
unheard of.
It probably is. It was insane. And then Marty and I, on a off day, we went downtown. We took a tour of all of these theaters. We decided to go to the Connolly, and they gave us the best price. And there was a lot of reasons to be there. They had a puppet tradition at the time, and we wanted to be part of it and support them. But it was also the East Village, which is a great place to be on Halloween. And we booked it. We had no money.
Hmm.
And we just prayed for ticket sales. We tried to fundraise. We got some grants and things. And that show sold out before we opened. It was
Wow.
it was amazing. It was a
Oh my
wild,
gosh.
wild show. It was a lot. It was a lot. But it was fantastic. And Marty and I love to work together, so and then came Aanika.
Oh yeah, I can tell.
So Aanika, I was working on a different puppet play with elephants called called Tusk, and I was working with a guy named Sa Nagauja. Sa was known for being Fela on Broadway,
Huh.
and he's in a lot,
Ironic.
yeah, and doing a lot of TV shows and stuff. Um and we had worked on that play for years, and we finally got booked in Atlanta, and we were so excited. It was a big show, like a Marty size show. Like, why are you making this big a show? We had a full band, we had dancers, it was huge. And we finally got the show booked, and then COVID happened.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, okay,
Oh my god.
what are we gonna do? And so we put down the show, and we basically said to them, our script is yours, do whatever you want. So they did readings, they did things with it, but we never saw any of it. And that's
Right.
okay. And they're still like, we want to work with them again and have them finish the show, but we're myself and Saw, we can't get back down there to do it unless there's funding. So I was at the O'Neill one day, and Pam said, how's your show? And I said, it's dead. And she was like, oh, because she had helped work on it. I mean, that show was like 8 years or something we worked on it. And I said, it's dead. And she said, I think you should read the script that Annie keeps sending you. And Annie Evans had been sending me a script saying, can you read this? Tell me what you think. I know you love elephants too. And I kept saying, Annie, I can't, because I'm working on an elephant play. And I don't want it to ever feel like we accidentally stole from each other. So I didn't. And when Pam said, I think you should read it. If your show is over, read the script. And I read the script and I said, what can I do? We were sitting in our office at the O'Neill. And I was just, feeling defeated, trying to keep the place moving for puppeteers and be happy for them. But I was like, what am I doing? And Pam said, what do you want to do next? And I said, perform. And she said, do you want to be in Aanika's Elephants? I was like, yeah. And she went, what? And I said, yeah, I want to be in your show. And she was like, what? And she picked up the phone instantly and called Annie and was like, Jean Marie wants to be in the show. And she was like,
Oh my gosh.
yes. So then Marty called me like 10 minutes later. Keeve, you want to be in the show? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yes. So I went and did, but I had put off reading that script for a year because of her character. It starts with Little was, and our lead character was named Little too. And I was like, nope,
Oh, wow.
I should not, like, just don't do it. Yeah, what are the chances?
Wow.
Yeah. So I just didn't. And it's meant to be. So they invited me to do a workshop and we did in this barn in Connecticut. And at that I knew a couple people, but most of them knew each other from Sesame, and I'm not a Sesame girl. I mean, I know them all, I love them all, but I never worked on that show.
Right.
So they all knew each other, and while we were practicing and putting together the show, my marketing brain was going. And I finally said, I think we have a show. And Annie said, yeah, we just need to be able to get enough to apply for a grant. I said, no, I think we have a show. Can we put up cell phones around the room and video? Let's watch it back. So we put it up and we watched it back. And I was like, we have a show. Let's video this show. We're gonna pitch it. We did photography on our cell phones. We pitched the New Victory Theater. We pitched the Triumph Fine Arts Center in North Carolina. We pitched a couple places. They all said yes. And
Wow.
that week was meant to be playing. But Pam Arciero, Marty did a killer job on the puppets. The script is great. Paul Rudolph was doing great music. But Pam
Oh,
Arciero,
Paul, yeah.
he's great. But
Yes,
he also
yeah.
did the music for Liverwurst Girl.
Hmm.
But
Right.
but Pam's directing, it's her style of directing. Her style of directing is very linear, and it suits all of our
Right.
brains. We have to repeat, 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 repeat. And she directed the heck out of that show. We should not have left with a show. And we left, the only thing that we still wanted, because we were in such a small theater, we wanted new lights. So we got a lighting designer in Atlanta to design it. But Andre C. Allen is his name. He's amazing. And yeah, that all happened just because my show died and because of COVID. And Pam
Wow.
happened to say to me, she just saw me like watching people, and my brain was clearly going. And she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to perform again. And she has now said, I've heard her on multiple interviews say, I've been waiting for her to say that. Because she wanted me to perform again. I haven't performed in 10 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And now I can't stop.
No,
I'm everywhere.
That's wonderful.
That's lovely.
That's
Wow.
great. And like Angus Elephants, it's such like a wonderful theater production because when we did talk with both Annie and Mari about the production, they told us such wonderful stories that like the kids like when there are times where the elephants be sad or something, they can be sad with them and then be happy with them, and
Yes.
it's such a beautiful like story that lots of who like even for example who's like lots of children who first starting to get to know Broadway stuff for the first time and get to experience that way. That's
Yeah.
that's beautiful, and a lot of amazing people that got to be involved in that, like you just said, Mari and Annie and Pam and Jamaica Collins,
I was gonna say
Bradley,
Mhm.
and
Bradley.
We also,
yeah,
the rest of
wonderful
the cast
guys.
is Latoria Alexander. Leila Ghaznavi is an amazing
Yeah.
artist who's also really good on
Right.
film. And we have one part that rotates between two people. Jared Brody, who's based in Atlanta, and Fergie L. Philippe, who's based in New York.
Yeah.
Those
Uh-huh.
are-
No, Fergie's awesome.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
great, great cast.
That's wonderful. That's
Oh, I'm
wonderful.
sure. I'm looking forward to more with that production too, because I hope there'll be more success with that. Because honestly,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
And
great.
you know how I said I love the unsung hero? There's also a person, Jessica Brichard, whose name she just got married. I don't know her new married name. Sorry, Jessica. But um, she is an assistant puppet builder for Marty.
Oh,
And she's
cool.
Okay.
incredible, incredible visual artist who we put into all the shows. Poor Jessica. The first round of every show, she performed at the first version of Aanika. We took her on tour for a little bit. She was like, okay, okay, here we go. She was great. She is the unsung hero because she can build the puppets and then she's running on stage. She's like, where do you want me? What am I doing? And really learns those parts. And it's not her thing, but she's game. And she was same thing for All Hallows Eve. Every so often we'd be like, and Jessica, then you perform the puppet. She was like, you want me to what?
Hmm.
But we can't get somebody there, and you're already there, so you get to perform it. And she was like, okay. She's Marty is very lucky to have her on his team.
That's
That's
awesome.
wonderful.
It's awesome. So now moving on from puppetry, of course, as you mentioned earlier, you're also a professional coach. Can you talk a little bit about that side of things?
Yeah.
Yeah, that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love coaching. I love people. And I'm always really interested in like seeing how to help people win. And there's so many ways to do that. You know, you can just be there, but you can make space for people, which I think is what Little Shadow is. It's like an opportunity for people to create and learn. Um, but I've been coaching forever, right? When I'm in a rehearsal room, I'm coaching. When I'm
Right.
producing a show, you're coaching the team. And I had a coach that I hired years ago, because I didn't know what to do when I got hurt. I was like, what? I need to figure this out. I can barely walk. I can't be on set. And I was exhausted. So, like doing theater, you have to be awake. And I was not. And she said, and I started temping for hedge funds and and family offices. So it's like really wealthy, really influential people that I was working for. And they would bring me in and ask me questions because my mind works differently, right, than the normal business mind. And I realized that my coach was right. I should be coaching because I have that ability to hear the problem and distill it to, is this what you're saying? You can tell me a whole story and I'll tell it to you in 2 sentences.
Hmm.
And then from there, we figure out what do you want and how are we going to get it? And that's what we do in storytelling. So I realized that there was an opportunity to impact a lot more people using this weird, cool thing called puppetry. So yeah, I coach now and I love it.
That's awesome.
That's
You.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, of
It's a
course.
privilege. It's a privilege to be able to help people.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, aside from, puppetry projects and coaching, other side of things, can you share anything that you're, what you're working on now?
What am I working on now? I'm working on a show called You Have Arrived. It's a new play that we started this summer at the O'Neill. We went with one play, and within 4 hours, we threw it out and started a new one. And out came You Have Arrived. So I literally got back from being there this weekend. We've been developing it there with, I'm working with an artist named Neda Izadi, and she is here from Iran.
Hmm.
And the show takes place in a pop-up book, and it's all paper
Oh, wow.
and it's nonverbal, so we can perform it anywhere in the world. And it's a show about climate refugees. And we've been testing it on different audiences. And the goal, we're now working with people in Iran, in Bosnia, and we're working hopefully with Brazil, people who have been affected with climate disasters. We will send them the patterns to the show, and they can rebuild it with paper and give jobs to puppeteers who are out of work. So we'll be performing it in the US, but we are working with partners around the world to try to create jobs for puppeteers during climate crises or who are refugees. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a lot of work, this project, because it's just
Right.
myself and Nada, and then we have Helena Pennington is our dramaturg, which is the person who makes sure your story makes sense.
Hmm.
And we're working with a man named Aresh Azizi, who's based in Iran, and he is composing the music. And
Nice.
yeah, that's what I'm working on. So there's that, and then Aanika is getting ready to do a little bit of a tour.
Nice. That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting. And then we have a new TV academy that we're about to launch um, at the beginning of the year. And then we have a whole lot of new programs that Little Shadow's going to be launching in the new year, including a new community where you can become a member of the community for a very little bit of money. And we'll have weekly places for people to hang out and learn and share.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
So we've got a
Nice.
lot going on. I'm spending most of my time doing coaching and trying to find more people to bring into Little Shadow to help because it's a lot of work for our small
Right.
but mighty team.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. Looking forward, more with Little Shadow and Aanika and a lot of other things. I'm looking forward for coming up.
Thank
Yeah,
you. What
absolutely.
are you two doing
Of
next?
course.
More interviews. Well,
Yeah.
college also for me, but more interviews as well.
Yay, college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, um, I mean, of course, still, the show and all that stuff, we love what we're doing. I'm just planning to, like, at some point, I'm probably like, I'm trying to give myself like a good place to, to start, a job for myself and,
Great.
better, financially and stuff.
You'll
So,
get there
so
one
we'll
day at a
see what
time.
happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Yep, exactly. Um, yeah, looking forward to what's coming up soon. So since we're getting close to wrapping this up very soon, Chris will be asking the last question we usually ask every single guest at the very end. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how would you define nostalgia?
For me, instantly I think of I Love Lucy and
Right, yeah.
black and white television. I loved black and white entertainment because you can put your memories into it or you can put your imagination into it. I think, but I think the word nostalgia makes me think of like objects or moments that make you feel warm and fuzzy and bring you back to something and something that makes you feel safe.
Yeah, great, definitely
That's
great words
great.
to end on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jean Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is a blast.
Thank you. It was so great to meet you both in this way. How special.
I know, yeah. It's
Me
something we've been
Yeah,
trying to make
of
happen for
course.
a while since the Aanika thing. But I'm glad we were finally able to make it happen in this way.
Me too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of
So good to know you
course.
all.
You as well, yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll let you know when
You
this goes
too.
up.
Please do. And if there's anything I can do to support you, please let me know, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. Take
Yeah,
care.
of course. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jean Marie.
Sure.
Thanks a lot. Yes, you too. Thanks again, Jean Marie.
Bye.
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 Thanks again.
Yes, and it's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time speaking with Jean Marie Keevins. Links to her website and social media will be in the description down below, as well as links to Little Shadow, where you can reach out to her, reach out to them, check out their work, and so on. So goodbye from us as well. Keep on the
All
lookout
of that,
for,
Angus elephants and all that stuff.
yes. So keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. Jake, take us home. What do we say, my friend?
Yeah. Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.